episode number 3, as we get you set for another week of interesting sports. What you need to know. We're live on the Facebook. We're also live on YouTube. We want to hear from you. We'll try to hear from you. I definitely can hear you. Hopefully my co-host can hear from you, because I would love for him to talk to you. We got some great guests tonight. We also have got a lot to talk about. Phone number, scroll across the screen, but if you don't know it, you need to know it. 1-346-314-0906. The number you need to call if you want to be a part of the CJ Harris Show. Let's get to our guest, and I'll get to my co-host. We're going to start off at about 10, 15 after. We're going to talk to former volleyball coach at Letcher Central, Betty Von Caudill. I believe now she's coaching middle school basketball. We'll talk to her about her legendary career at Letcher Central and how middle school basketball is going, and her thoughts on some other topics. Then we're going to get an opportunity to talk to Paintsville head coach Trevor Hoskins. Originally from Middlesboro, he played there. He also a 6-7 year career assistant coach under Al Holland at Paintsville College. Now he's the head man at Paintsville. Took a rough loss the other night, but to a good Paintsville team, and everybody, got Paintsville highly rated. So we'll talk to him about that. We'll also talk to Tom Greer from Corbin. Got a big win over the Christian school out of North Carolina in the second game of the Cumberland Falls Pigskin Classic. Williamsburg won the opener, who was the quarterback for Williamsburg was unbelievable. He had over 400 yards of total offense. He had 2, I think, if I'm not correct, he had over 200 passing and 200 rushing. And big win over Oneida, Tennessee. And then we're going to finally meet for the first time sports director John Lowe at WYMT. Camille is going to be out of town this weekend and next weekend. She's sort of taking a mini vacation in between her Friday and Saturday shooting highlights. I saw Courtney last night at the Clay County Knox Central game, which was a really good ball game. More entertaining than I anticipated. I didn't know it was going to be that entertaining. My co-host tonight, he's a great man. And I'm expecting 2 hours of nothing but the best comedy, because this man is the best. Love to have him. He's still working out of Knoxville, Tennessee at WVLT. My good friend, everybody's good friend, Mr. Jeff Archer. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Hey, CJ, how's it going? I always love coming back and talking some mountain sports. There ain't nothing better than doing some East Kentucky sports, man.
Oh, glad to have you. I know you've been a busy man. I know you with Tennessee Titans football going on. You've got Tennessee football. I know you've been busy on that side of that state. Actually, I was in your state a couple Saturdays ago. I went down to Greenville. You ever heard of the Ricky Morton School?
No, not familiar with that one.
Wrestling school, and we were putting on some wrestling performances there at the School of Morton, which is located in Chuckey, Tennessee, which is close to Greenville. So it was an interesting trip. It was a good adventure. It was a nice little time. But what's been going on with you? I know you've been staying busy and everything.
Well, I'm not even in Tennessee anymore. I'm actually back in Ohio now.
He's moved on me.
I did. I moved on you. I'm back in Ohio now, back home where my roots were. Spent a lot of time in Tennessee, loved it there, but now I'm back in Ohio and enjoying my time working some public relations in Ohio. But you know what? I can tell you it's funny. My girlfriend lives in Kentucky, so I spend all my weekends in Kentucky. And someone's like, so you done with sports? I said, man, Friday night I was at a high school football game in the state of Kentucky, Simon Kenton versus Oldham County. And on my phone, I was watching scores from the state of Ohio, scores from the state of Kentucky, scores from the state of Tennessee, scores from the state of Virginia. So I'm watching schools all over the place, trying to keep my eye on a couple of those mountain schools who were doing well, and had my eye on that Johnson Central Henry Clay game, and just trying to keep up on what's going on. But a lot of great stuff happening in East Kentucky, in Tennessee, and in Ohio.
You spoke about Johnson Central. They were impressive Friday night, but I was disappointed with week one. I don't know, but somebody must have turned the electricity off in some places, because there wasn't effort. I will say that they played harder this year than they did last year at the start because, coronavirus was
right.
Mask and social distancing. They were all tore to pieces. And it wasn't tore to pieces, but it just seemed like the play wasn't as sharp. I was watching the Belfry Prestonsburg, the Belfry Pulaski County game, and I would have thought Belfry would have played a whole lot better, but Pulaski County just wore them out.
I'll say there was probably no team that made a bigger statement win, certainly not in the mountains, and maybe not even the entire state of Kentucky, as Pulaski County with what they did to Belfry. I mean, nobody does that to Belfry. And for Pulaski County to be able to do that, put up the points they did, to run away with it the way they did, is a real statement win for John Hines and those Maroons. I mean, what a big, big win for them. I know they came into the Mountain Top 10, the WYMT Mountain Top 10 7th, and just put a beat down on Belfry, and nobody does that. So that really is a statement for, I think, definitely for Pulaski County. Maybe Belfry was a little slow to start, but you can't take anything away from Pulaski County in that win. That's such an
great win. Well, you look at the scores. You look at the scores from the other night. You got here's the games that really surprised me. I was surprised with the Belfry Pulaski. I was surprised Somerset got beat the way they did. I didn't think you'd get beat that bad. Lincoln County's a decent team, but they wore them out. They took them to the woodshed and said, "We're going to put you down." And I know that Somerset lost Kay Grundy, quarterback, lost everything, but I thought they would be more competitive than that. I was impressed with Harlan County for their first game under their new coach, Coach McCreary. I thought they just simply ran all over South Laurel. And I thought North Laurel was very impressive over Bell. That was one of the most impressive games. Besides the Clay County Knox Central game I saw, Bell North was really good, entertaining.
Yeah, one thing I did notice, there were a lot of games that were a one-score game throughout the mountains. A lot of times, you get that first week and you get a team that runs away with it. But I think it was a really well played. I mean, look at some of these scores. You mentioned North Laurel over Bell County in overtime.
Yep.
A great game there. Perry County Central, a 7-point win over top of Whitley County. That's a good game. Pineville and Phelps, sometimes they don't always look at the small schools. That was a one-score game. That Knox County Central, Clay County, like you said, was an 8-point game. Played at Union College, which is a fun place to play.
Yeah. The one in Hazard lost a tough game.
2-point game in Middlesboro.
Middlesboro's a little bit better than I think people give them credit for. I know the one team that nobody's talking about, they should be, is Letcher Central. They just swore out Shelby Valley, which I thought they could because Letcher Central's got a lot of offense.
Yeah.
They're throwing it all over the place. Not just throwing it, they're running it. You talked about Phelps and Pineville. That was an interesting game. But I think one other game might have told me waking up was Dunbar played Breathitt. Because Breathitt lost their game to McGoffin County because of COVID. So Breathitt picked up Dunbar, and Dunbar beat him pretty bad. So that might be a wake-up call for Coach Moore and his Bobcats because a lot of people criticize them anyway for their scheduling. You can't help who you schedule. I mean, some teams want 5 or 6 powerhouses, and you try to get those same teams, but then when they're filled up, you have to take what you can get. And because it all surrounds RPI. Yeah.
You look at some of the teams that took a loss were a little bit surprising, but at the top of the teams that we expect at the top kind of took the wins we thought. I think the teams that really stood out, once again, Johnson Central really stood out because they put a whooping on a good team out of Lexington, and they have a massive game coming up next week. I mean, Johnson Central, we'll talk about in a moment, I guess, but that's a massive game coming for them, but they looked impressive. Pulaski County was probably the biggest statement win of the entire state, definitely in the mountains. And you're right, I think Harlan County, with what they did, really showed up and showed out. So a great one for Black Bears. I really tip my cap to those 3 teams. I think really stepped up and showed out.
Right now, I see 4 games that are tickling my fancy for next week. You mentioned Johnson Central at Lexington Catholic.
Yes.
We got Harlan County at Hazard. I think that's going to be a nice game. Williamsburg at Middlesboro. Now, Middlesboro at home is really good. And this is going to be, I think people are understand this might be a tie game. And let's see. Bourbon County and Pikeville in the Pike County Bowl the night before. We got a phone call. Let's go to the phone line, see who we got here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the CJ Harris Show. Hello, Miss Karen. How you doing? Tell her just to click on the link that I sent her, and if what is she using? That I sent her, yes. And it should tell her to put her name, make sure her camera's working. It'll tell her to come into our studio, and I'll be able to see her and then put her in here with our conversation. Yes, I do. We love to talk to our guests here on the CJ Harris Show. We enjoy that. Well, we'll put you on the show this year. I promise. I'll put you on there. We'll bring you on because you're legendary. I mean, you've done a lot of good things. So, and you're the sister of Betty Vaughn. So, I mean, you're just as important as she is. I see her. All right. Let's get her in here.
Put that TV down.
Well, thank Karen for giving us that call. With us right now, Jeff, is legendary former volleyball coach of the Letcher Shitter Lady Cougars. And I believe she's doing some middle school basketball. She'll tell me more about that in just a moment. Is Betty Von Caudill. Betty, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah, might want to turn your volume up a little bit.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah,
much better.
Yeah, much better.
Okay.
Much better.
Great.
Yeah. Well, how are things going with you? Give me an update on how you're doing.
We're doing real good. The school year's going good this year so far, even with all this virus and everything. But yeah, we're doing good.
You know, I didn't know. I was doing my homework and I failed to do my homework really good. I did not know that you was not coaching volleyball. But one of the things I still wanted you on the show for, because you're one of the most legendary coaches in volleyball of all time. Your record speaks for itself. And I'm going to tell you right now, I will tell you this anytime, I'll tell you anywhere. If you ain't a candidate for the Hall of Fame later down the road, there needs to be an investigation, because you have one of the top winning percentages and winning regional championships. I mean, it's impressive.
I appreciate that very much. I thank you for that. That's a lot of hard work and sweat and tears from the girls and parents, and a lot of years put into that.
I don't know if you know your total record, and I might have missed a game or two, but in 2 years, I had your record being 298 wins and 101 losses. But, you know, that's impressive, because you were winning 20, 30 games a year. And girls, people don't understand how difficult volleyball is, because they think it's just a simple sport. You show up, knock the ball out of the net. There's a lot of rules that you have to follow. And if the girls and the officials don't know them, it can make the game look bad.
Yeah, to me, that's what's important around here. I think the people need to understand that volleyball is not just hitting the ball over the net. You play a lot of offense and defense. There's a lot of different defenses ran. There's a lot of offenses ran in volleyball. And I said, like in most sports, you have 2 or 3 seconds to get ready. In volleyball, you have 1 or 2 seconds to get ready. And the only thing protecting you is the net. And most of these girls are great athletes, and they get way above the net.
in the past 2 or 3 years, have you seen this? Have you seen the 14th region grow? Because I mean, at one time it was all Letcher Central. I mean, you can't deny that. But teams now like Knott County, Breathitt County, Wolfe County, they're starting to come on. Leslie County starting to get better. They're starting to come on. They're starting to play better volleyball.
Yes, volleyball in the 14th region has gotten much, much stronger. And that's due to all the coaches want to be on the same level. They want to be on the same pace. So coaches and the kids are putting a lot more time into it.
I know.
Let me ask you, Coach.
Go ahead, Jeff. Yeah.
You won 10 region titles, incredibly impressive. And you look at the mountains as a whole, going to the state level, what needs to be done for that next level for the mountains to become more of a player at the state level? You know, what's the next step?
I don't know if we'll ever reach that level because when you get down to the Louisvilles and the Lexingtons, those kids pick a sport and they play it 12 months a year. Around here, because their schools are so small, when I was coaching volleyball, I had kids that went from volleyball to play softball or to play basketball. But when you get down and you have all those private schools and they're playing volleyball 12 months a year, it's hard to compete with that.
You know, he mentioned the state tournament, and I forgot to see how many games you won at state. But when you get down there, is it just does it have the same feeling if you would want a regional in basketball or softball?
Yes, I always told our kids to enjoy going. You know, we got. I'm not bragging, but we got used to going every year. I mean, the kids just automatically when we came to practice, that was their goal. You're going to go. You play to go to the state tournament. But I always told them to remember that that's not a given fact. You have to work for that every year. So in the past 3-4 years, it's gotten much harder. The teams, like I said, the teams are getting stronger around here. Coaches are putting more time into it. The girls are putting more time into it. So it's getting to be a more even, more even region for everybody. And yeah, when we've won one game at the state tournament, we've been close in a couple of games. But just to go there and get to go through all that ritual and all that it's a great thing for all the kids.
When you're coaching a dynasty like you were, with like I said, with those 10 region titles all in a row, you had 5 straight from 2014 to 2018. Is there extra pressure on you that you have to win a region title, or it feels like you haven't accomplished something?
Now, to me, it was pressure on me, but I never put it on the girls. Me and my assistant coach, to us, in our mind, we were one of those that we were one of the top teams, so we felt like we had to stay at the top. That was our goal as a coach, was to keep this program at the top. And the girls and the parents came in, and that's the first thing we said is, if you're not here to win the region and go to the state, then you're wasting your time. So that's the way we practice every day.
When you make a statement like that early on, do you find that athletes, in particular your female athletes, respond to that? They want that? They want to have those standards set for them? Do they respond better to that?
Yes. Even in practice every day, we would do drills, and I would tell them, I'm going to set a bar for you, and when you reach that bar, I'm going to give you another bar. So you're never going to make it to the top. It's like a ladder. You're going to take the first ring. When you make it there, I'm going to give you have to make it to the second one. So, yeah, and the girls, I don't think they ever played with pressure on. They enjoyed playing and had fun being together. We play as a team. It's a team effort. If you're the last player on the bench or the first player, you're just as important. And they felt that way. So it made it much easier to coach these kids. I've always had great athletes. I mean, they just worked above and beyond what they were asked to do. So
You have been around so long. You're very intelligent in other sports. And I understand you're coaching a middle school basketball team now.
I am back to coaching middle school boys basketball, and I'm assistant with the middle school girls program.
What's it like to go from coaching high school to coaching middle school? Is there a different style of coaching? At high school, you're coaching more for the wins, and middle school, you're coaching more for the technique, or is it all the same?
Well, to me, it's all the same. I want my kids to learn how to win, but I also want them to learn how to lose. Because I tell them in life, you don't get everything you want in life. You have to work for it. We're in volleyball. We came up short some years, but the kids kept their heads up and came back the next year and was ready to go again to try to win that regional title. So it's the same thing in grade school sports. We set a goal, and that's what we try to accomplish. If we don't accomplish it, then we'll come back the next year and work just as hard to try.
One thing that I was wondering was coronavirus. Your last season of volleyball, was you able to handle it pretty good? How was you able to pursue your girls and keep them away from it?
Well, we just done a lot of cleaning, and we had each child, we gave them their own individual balls, and we just made it a purpose, to let them know that if we get sick, we're going to have to sit out. So they tried their best to stay away from people and stay as clean and germ-free as possible, and they done a good job. That's a hard thing to go through, but they done a good job, and their spirits were up. We went through some low spots at times because we'd have kids that were contained and quarantined, because my teams have always been like a family. So if we have somebody that's feeling bad or down, all the kids feel bad and down.
Yeah. Well, I know that we've been friends a long time. Me and Karen's been friends longer. I love having a conversation with you because you're very intelligent, not just in one sport, but all sports. But your record just tells me in volleyball that someday you have to be in the Hall of Fame, because it's just an impressive legacy and will never be forgotten. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Would you come back?
I sure will. Anytime you let me know. You'll always see me at the gym. I go watch boys and girls basketball all over the region. I'll be watching girls volleyball all over the region. I've got one player at Ellis Floyd playing now, so I'm trying to get that worked in. I'm doing individual camps for teams right now in volleyball, so I'm pretty busy, but you'll always see me in the gym somewhere.
Well, Betty Vaughn, I appreciate your time and effort, and thank you for being on the show, and we'll see you down the road, and please come back soon.
I sure will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Betty Vaughn Caudill, former coach of volleyball, Letcher Central. I mean, we got a phone call. Let's go to the line and see if we get our good buddy Ryan and get it. Well, let me get him in here. Hello, caller. You're on the CJ Harris Show. Okay, I have lost Ryan. Okay. Maybe he'll call back. Well, okay. We'll hope call back, Ryan. We had a malfunction there. All right. Jeff, me and Jeff back. Great interview there, Jeff. Right there's a hard-working woman.
Yeah, she's one of those people that it doesn't matter what she coached. I mean, volleyball is what she made her name in. Yeah. I think she would have been successful no matter what she did as a coach, because, as she said, she demanded excellence, and the kids responded. And I think that's one thing sometimes people overlook. They say, you can't put too much pressure on the kids. You can't do this. You can put enough on them.
Hold on 1 second. Go ahead, Ryan. You're on the CJ Harris Show. Yeah, well, having no preparing for them and didn't know what they were about. Yeah, that was pretty good effort. Pretty good effort, I would say. But, I think Coach Moore took the game more to just help his RPI than he did and help his kids, because he knew going into the game that it was going to be a difficult challenge. And, almost paid off. But Dunbar's loaded. I mean, they're one of the Lexington schools down there that can play.
Well, what about UK football this year? Can you see them getting second in the East, or you want to make a prediction on that, or what?
I don't know. I mean, the Levy, I don't know much about the quarterback. I know he's pretty decent. He was at Penn State. I mean, the question I've got is, can he help the passing game? I think they're going to be able to run the football, win some games. You're not going to beat Georgia, but Georgia may flub up and lose to somebody they don't lose to, and you may win the conference. I mean, win the East. So you need to beat everybody else in front of you. Now you got everybody. You got was it Florida at home? You got only game you got on the road is Georgia. So take care of business at home. You should be pretty good shape. Now I think Kentucky's going. I said it win 9 games, but they could win 10, depending. So we'll see. But I can't wait to see Kentucky play in 2 weeks. It's going to be a full house at the Kroger Field, and it's going to be great to see that again. It's going to be great to see that. What got me excited the past couple of nights I've been watching football, the crowd at Middlesboro. I am exaggerating. I would say there was over 1,000 people there. And there was a good crowd last night at Union College for the Clay County Knox Central game.
Well, would it be too soon to say that Kentucky could get a BCS bowl? They have come on things all the place, though.
They do. They're very close to getting in the top 25. Win your first game or two, you're probably getting in the top 25 in a week or two after that. But first, I think Coach Stoops wants to work on is making sure they made the right decision at quarterback. They got when you got a player like Rondell Robinson, you got to show him off. You got to try to get the ball to him. And I think the one kid that nobody's talking about in camp at all is Smoke. I think Smoke is going to have a big year. Nobody's talking about him. Everybody's talking about Rodriguez and everybody else, but I've never heard Smoke's name in any of the offensive calls. And I know he's a threat on the ground. He can go to the house with it. So watch out for him. I think he'll surprise the people.
Well, I'll try to message you sometime this week and have a good evening.
Well, we'll try to get in, Ryan. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I will. See you later, Ryan. Bye.
Yeah,
Ryan,
I think
good friend.
Expectations are high for UK. I mean, if the expectations are high for UK, they're picked third in the SEC East. I mean, you can't be a schnub team and be picked third in either division in the SEC. So I think, UK has something to live up to this year.
We'll wait and see. I can't wait. The one thing I'm concerned with is Levy the right choice? I mean, is he the correct quarterback for Kentucky?
Yeah, you won't know until they start snapping the ball and tossing around a little bit. But, nice thing is they do have a couple, really good offensive linemen to bolster behind a little bit. So I think that's, something really good for them to kind of go off of. You said Rodriguez, they've got Smoke, and they've got a nice defense. So hopefully they should be able to win some ball games. Yeah, that game against Georgia looks bad. It looks like it could be rough, but we'll see. You never know. But what's interesting is, normally there's a bunch of non-conference games, and then they get in the SEC play. They only have one non-conference game, and then they play Missouri. So it's a little bit weird. Normally there's almost some warm-up games. They don't have those this year.
There's none, no.
It's one game, and then, hello, welcome to the SEC play with Missouri.
Right out of the bat. I mean, you turn right after you play the one game, it's bang. I mean, right in there you go. So you don't get a chance to even look back. My good buddy Mark Crawford was reminding us about a game coming up in 12 days. That would be next week, not this coming week, week after next. Corbin and Franklin County. And you're right, Mark. That Franklin County made a statement in the state Friday night. They absolutely destroyed Scott County. And I didn't expect them to beat them that bad, but they took them to the woodshed. That was impressive. And Franklin, when I saw them at the state finals last year, I said, this is a nice football team. I said, they could come back here again. And after what they did Friday night,
Oh, yeah. That's definitely going to be a good game coming. I mean, Corbin's got Willie County coming up, this week, and that's not one to overlook either. Anytime, you're going 2 minutes down the street, 15 minutes down the street, it's always going to be a little something that makes life a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky. So
they got Simon Kenton later in the season, and they got Campbell County later in the season. Those are really good teams, 6A and 5A.
Yeah, one thing for Corbin, we'll have to ask Tom Greer about this. How do you make sure you focus on that game with Whitley County this week and don't look ahead to Franklin County? It may not be difficult because, like we said, Whitley County is right there. You don't have to get the kids amped up because when you're Corbin, your kids know the kids on Whitley County. That should help. But you got to be careful of the trap game there. I think you have to keep your eyes on that.
Yep. And he does it real. And right after you play Franklin County on September 3rd, you play September 10th, you play Pulaski County.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no room for like, what do we do? I mean, we're playing. Yeah, I mean, you got to play.
And even after that, CJ, it's not even a break because you have Somerset, who the end's going to be better past Friday, but we know they have talent. So, it's not a break.
And Simon Kenton in district play. And Knox Central last night, I'm going to tell you what, if they play like they did last night and sure clean some stuff in their defense, I think they may be the surprise team in the mountains. That quarterback last night was unbelievable. If he didn't throw for 300 yards, I wasn't sitting there. The first play from scrimmage, he threw it 75 yards.
Yeah.
But, last night, between the Rice kid from Clay County and I can't remember, Coach Greer he's a kid that comes from Corbin that came to Knox Central. But he was impressive last night. Well, later in the season, we're going to try to have Coach McDaniels on the show, hopefully, and we'll talk about. He was impressive. That was so impressive. Reason Clay County is playing at Union College, and they didn't know, they're getting a turf field, and their field is not ready yet. They're telling them they'll be ready by the Appalachian Bowl, but now, last night, we were talking to some of the Clay County people. They said it may not be ready till middle of district play. So I have to wait and see if everything can work out.
I was wondering why they played at Union College. I just thought maybe it was something cool to do. So that is good to know. I was wondering that question.
No, well, I read your mind. I could tell what you wanted that question to be. So I was
like, why are they playing that? I mean, it's cool. I think it's neat. Like I said, I've always been in favor of getting a game or two at somewhere like a college or small college or something like that, something different, because it's just something the kids can talk about. That one time we played at Union College or played at the Cumberlands or played at Pikeville or whatever you want to say. But, that's neat. But ultimately, hopefully Clay County gets their field done sooner rather than later for their sake.
So we're supposed to have Coach Hoskins on any time from Paintsville. Let me double check, make sure I didn't messed up on my end. Let me go to, I had to give it to him on Twitter. And I did send him a reminder, so he did check. So we should see him anytime, I'm hoping.
And that's when they had a tough game against Pikeville in that first game. Like you said, CJ, expectations are so high for Pikeville this year. And they, we talked about some of the teams that made a statement win in the first week. Pikeville's one we can't overlook that either. What they did with a nice win over top of Paintsville really says a lot for the Panthers. And, I think Paintsville, though, with Hoskins, pushing them forward and they've got talent, I think they can rebound very quickly. But, man, oh, man, when he gets on, we need to ask him about their schedule. Because you talk about a schedule for Paintsville. I mean, their next game is Beechwood. You go from Pikeville to Beechwood and on. I mean, this is not something easy. So,
well, speaking of the man, he's here, Mr. Trevor Hoskins, head coach of the Paintsville Tigers. Coach, great to have you with us.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. I really do. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's good.
Coach, before we even get started about the Pikeville game, I want to know, did you dream a schedule up in your mind? This is a tough schedule. Now, I tell you, I mean, you got Pikeville this past week. You got Beechwood next week. Then you got Somerset. Then Knox Central. Then Perry
County Central.
And then your district. And then you end the year with Pike Central. You're like a lot of coaches. You got to play that tough schedule to get that RPI up there.
Yeah, and I wasn't actually the one that made the schedule. That was Coach Jericho before he moved on. But as a football coach, I don't think you would do it any different. You want to compete. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. You want to test yourself and your team against the best competition out there to get yourself ready for those end of season games, moving into the playoffs. And I think that's exactly what we have. No doubt it's tough, but we welcome that challenge, and I think we'll be better for it in the long run.
Coach, a tough game in week one. Obviously, Pikeville, an incredibly talented team. And it's always tough because, I mean, you guys are so close together, right up the road, so to speak. But what did you learn about your team from that first game?
Well, I think we learned a ton. First off, hats off to Coach McNamee and Pikeville. That's obviously a great team. Guys who I've been close with throughout the years just working at UPike. So I have the utmost respect for those guys. Going through the game and then going back and watching it, and then in the team meeting today, I think more so than anything, you never want to lose. But I think than anything, I have an optimistic look after really diving into the film. We left out there on the field, and I think that's to be expected, with a lot of new guys stepping up, new coaching staff, learning a new system. But I think more than anything, leaving that football game, we put ourselves in a good position early, and we just didn't finish the way that we wanted to. But really optimistic, walking out of that game.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was going to say, you learned a lot and things, and I want to go back before we get too far down the road, back about 15 years ago to 2006, because when I started WYMT in Hazard, 2006 was my first year, and if I remember right, that was your senior year at quarterback from Middlesboro, wasn't it?
Yes, sir. 2006 football season. That was my senior year.
When he said Trevor Hoskins, I'm like, wait a minute, I know Trevor Hoskins. I remember calling his name all the time on Sports Overtime, all the plays. That was a fun team. I remember you guys just beat the snot out of every team that year until you ran into a very tough Belfry team. What was that like? What was that like your senior year for you guys? Was that a fun year for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Great year. Obviously, a lot of fond memories. A lot of talent on that football team. Hunter Adams, I know he's coaching at Middlesboro now. He was a really good football player. Just a lot of talent on that field, and had some great games that year with Breathitt County, Corbin, and unfortunately, all 4 years in high school, I ran into the buzzsaw that was Belfry. So, good team, and just ran into a better one at the end of the day.
Now, you guys were so much fun. I love going down there. The crowds are great. You were fun. You said it, Hunter Adams. I actually had his name written down here on my sheet because I remembered him because he was. I remember at one point he was back-to-back plays of the week, and we were going to make him 3 weeks straight plays of the week, but we said we couldn't do it anymore. It was too much.
Yeah.
Hunter Adams couldn't be played. We banned him from plays of the week for 1 week because he'd won too many in a row. So you guys were so much fun to run. The only thing I was disappointed in Middlesboro when I was there from 2006, 2011 is before I got there, you guys used to have this little car that looked like a bumblebee, and it wasn't there when I was there. So I feel like I missed out. What was the deal with the bumblebee car? Where did that go, and can we bring that back?
No, I don't know what happened to it, but I do remember it. It buzzed up and down the sideline there my first few years, and I think my senior year it was not there. I don't remember who drove it or whose even it was, but I do remember that thing, running up and down the sidelines. That's something that they definitely need to bring back, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're a player, when you talk to your kids about what you did in high school, do they take something from that, or do they think that you're now the old man speaking to them? What is their reaction?
I would say it's the latter. I think it's the old man speaking to them. Not, I don't bring too much of that into play unless it's something I'm talking to, more so the quarterbacks than anything else. I can kind of talk to them about, just kind of been there, and done that. So talk to them a little bit about that. But, more than anything, they don't want to hear about my playing days. They just want to know what I can teach them now. But unless it's something I can relate, just don't talk about it too much.
Yeah, now you talked about the things you learned from your team going forward, and you said you felt optimistic. Coming into week 2 against Beechwood, man, that is a tough team. What are your thoughts going into that game? What do you guys have to do to be successful in that one?
Well, number one thing is consistency. One thing that we didn't do well the other night is we had too many pre-snap penalties. You can't play behind the chains, put ourselves in second and third and longs. Beechwood is a very disciplined football team, extremely talented, obviously, with their quarterback coming back for a 5th year. Just extremely disciplined all over the football field. And, if we want to put ourselves in position to make this a game and put it into the 4th quarter and see what happens, then we're going to have to do the same thing. We got to be disciplined. We got to execute, and we got to play ahead of the chains. You can't be sitting in second, third and long against this team. And, hopefully we'll be able to do that.
New system for you guys this year with you stepping in. How quickly has your team picked up on your new system, and how much longer do you think it'll take for them to fully grasp it to 100% level?
Yeah, well, they picked up they picked it up extremely quickly. We're a multiple set offense. We're heavy RPOs, and that can be difficult if that's something that you've never done before. RPO is more of a feel than anything. You can tell them who to read and when to read them, but you got to get out there and do it. And I think AJ, our quarterback, has done an extremely good job. He's a smart kid. He's a hard worker, great leader, and he's doing some really good things. And I think more than anything, I can give him all the knowledge in the world. We can draw it up on the board. We can do all of those things, watch film. But what we can't give him is experience. And I think every snap that he takes, every snap that we take as an offensive unit, we're going to continue to get better. So I always tell him it's a process, not an event. It's not going to happen overnight. I wish it would. Just doesn't work that way. So we're continuing. We're moving in the right direction. But we just got to trust the process and keep doing that. Can't get frustrated. Can't have any mental setbacks. Just keep doing what we're doing, chipping away, and at the end of the day, I think we'll be just fine.
Your Coach Kenny Rourke was a very important man in Middlesboro, Trevor. We miss him. He was a great man. Talk about his impact at Middlesboro, because I don't think people realize what kind of impact he had there.
Yeah. Well, first off, he was an exceptional football coach. There's no doubt about that. He was a heck of a football player and a really good football coach. But one thing that I always, remember about Coach Rourke, and I try to do the same thing myself, is he was a player's first guy. He wasn't an ego guy. It was never about Coach Rourke. It was about the team. It was about the players. He treated us like his own kids, and truly cared about us. And I think that's something I always remember about him, and something that I'll definitely try to do myself now as a head coach. So yeah, definitely Coach Rourke will be missed. Think about him often. And I don't know that Middlesboro football has a strong tradition, but I don't know if it would be as strong as it is without his imprint, obviously.
What you
said? Well, I'm going to ask you about. You spent 7 years at Paintsville. Tell me how important that was for you heading into your first coaching job.
Yeah, being first-time head coach, obviously you learn a little bit something there all the time. But my time at the college level obviously helped me with what I'm doing now. I was one of those guys. I knew I wanted to be a football coach from the time I was in middle school. So whether it was my time at EKU, whether it was my time at the University of Pikeville as a player and then as a graduate assistant, I've always kind of had that mindset of I want to learn as much as I can, take in as much as I can, not just X's and O's, but how's the program run? How is each coach pushing a culture? Those have been things that I've taken away every step of the way. I've been fortunate to be around a lot of good coaches, whether it be Danny Hope, Dean Hood, Dudley Hilton, Al Holland, Coach Rourke. Been very fortunate, and luckily I've always kind of known what I wanted to do and used each one of those opportunities as a learning experience.
Go ahead, Jeff. You got a question before I?
Yeah. What have you learned about Paintsville now? You've been there just for a little bit of time. What have you learned about the program at Paintsville, about the community of Paintsville? What are you gathering and learning and growing from so far? What are your first impressions of this as you take over this job?
Well, first off, amazing community. They have been extremely welcoming to me and my family. They love football. They love athletics in general. That was something that kind of resonated with me coming from a place like Middlesboro that had a rich athletic history, and people in the community cared about sports. So it was very familiar to me. But they've been amazing, and more so than that, it's an amazing school system. A lot of people want to come there and be a part of just the school system, athletics aside. So it's been really good. I couldn't ask for a better welcome, and me and my family, we're extremely happy to be there.
When you're in a place like Paintsville, and I don't really like to always bring up the bigger school down the street when you got Johnson Central, but you guys have such a good program. They have such a good program. What's in the water in that area that you can have two good programs like that close together and really find success? What is going on out there?
Yeah, I don't know. You think about it too, and it's just not those schools either. You got Paintsville, you got Johnson Central, you have Pikeville, you have Belfry right here. Just this area in general, Raceland and Ashland on up the road. So just this area in general is really rich with football talent. And you kind of think about it, and it makes you think of kind of the Alcoa and Maryville, dynamic they have there in Tennessee. So I think more so than anything, it's just a tradition. These guys grow up from the time that they're young, wanting to play football and be a part of those athletic systems, and it just shows over time. And that's why I think you have so many good, not just football teams, but athletics in general in this area.
I personally want to see this. We ain't seen it for over 10 years longer. I would love the game between Johnson Central and Paintsville in the Apple Cup to return. Coach, is there a chance that in the near future we could see that return? Because that was one of the most entertaining games that I've ever watched. YMT would used to cover that game all the time. And I love the Apple Cup, but I love you two playing each other because you were only 10, 15 miles away from each other. So, I love that atmosphere. That was something awesome. Could we see that again someday?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I would be the wrong person to ask on, why it's not being played anymore or what happened or anything like that, just me being new coming into town. So I'm not sure what happened. They're obviously a really good team. Their roster size is going to be significantly bigger than what ours is. But at the same time, we like to play great competition. I think that the proof is there of that. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't see why there would not be a game in place there. But, I don't know why that game, hasn't been played for the last few years. Maybe a reason, may not be. I don't know the answer to that. But, as far as us I guess I can answer that question in the stance of, we want to play as many good teams as we possibly can. Regardless of who those teams are, we want to test ourselves. And if it happened to be Johnson Central on the schedule, then I don't know that the test gets much bigger than that. So,
let me ask you this.
Well,
you played Middlesbrough, you played at U-Pike, you're coaching now at Paintsville. You've been across the mountains from the regions all over from 13th to the 15th and all the way back across. Can you describe to people what that's like to play high school football in the mountains and that special feeling?
Yeah, it is. You're right. It is a special feeling, and I don't know that I could do it justice and articulate it, good enough. I think it's one of those things that it's that small town. It's the pride that you have. And like I said earlier, you grow up. I remember being a kid, just growing up, watching those Middlesbrough teams with your, the 1998 state championship teams with the Jeremy Skidmores and the Floyd Branhams of the world. You grow up wanting to be, those Middlesbrough high school players to me might as well have been the Pittsburgh Steelers, So I think that's the feeling you get in those small towns, and you grow up wanting to be a part of those systems, and it's really a prideful thing.
It's something so special, and when you win, they love you. When you lose, sometimes they love you, sometimes they don't. But overall, they always come back and show you their pride and their love for you. And there's nothing else like it. You can't find that somewhere else. You're right, probably because it is the small towns. They do put a lot of pride in that. And it's wonderful and it's great. And if you can bring that pride to the town, I think it means a lot to you, to the coach, to the players, to be able to win and to make those people feel proud and happy of themselves as well as the product you're putting on the field.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt.
Coach, one other question, then we'll let you go. Coronavirus is out there. We know it. How have you been able to keep your team focused on not getting it? Because we're seeing a lot of games canceled. And, even though we still have some things that we do have to do, you have to be able to you have to pound it in their heads. They can't get around people with coronavirus. Yeah.
I guess, dealing with it last year at the college level, we actually played a spring football season. So it was very, very strange, and it's tough times. It's tough on coaches. It's tough on players. It's tough on communities. I guess the one thing that I have learned absolutely for certain through all this is that I don't have all the answers. You do the best that you can. You listen to everything, the information that you're given from the experts, and that's just it. You do the best you can. With us, we're a little bit different than we were obviously at the University of Pikeville. We're dealing with a much smaller roster size, so it's kind of easier to break things up and change practice schedules and all that, to keep guys separate as possible. But at the end of the day, it's just it's a tough thing that I don't think that we actually have a lot of control over. You just do the best you can and stay healthy as possible. And you got to be able to adapt and adjust on the fly. I'm sure there's going to be a point in this season, I hope not, but we're going to get a call on, maybe Tuesday, Wednesday that a team can't play, and we're going to have to prepare for a different team maybe in 2 days. So you got to be able to adapt and just understand it's a fluid situation. It's always changing, and you just got to do the best that you can.
Well, Coach, when they hired you, I made a comment that was one of the best hires I've ever seen. Coach Jericho was a great guy. I mean, he wanted to move on, but they couldn't have hired no better guy than you, Trevor, because I think you understand the passion of high school football in the mountains, and I think you can keep the tradition going. And I don't see nothing but great things happening for you and your team continuing. Would you come back? I would love to have you come back again. Good conversation. Always, you've got a lot to say.
Yeah, well, first off, I appreciate your, vote of confidence. I'm extremely excited to be here, and I think, first off, we got a really good team. They work hard. They're coachable. So I know that we're going to continue to move in the right direction. But I appreciate your words, and I would be more than happy to come on anytime. Yeah,
Coach, as we said, you got 3 toughies coming up. You got Beechwood on the 27th. Then you got would have been the Pikeville game is now. It'll be an open date, or you'll pick a game up. I don't know what you're thinking there. And then you got Somerset, and then Knox Central. Then you'll hit district play. Coach, thank you so much for being on the show. I will holler at you again, and it was an honor to meet you. And good luck to you and the Tigers.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Coach Trevor Hoskins of the Paintsville Tigers. As we said, tough schedule. Tough. Yeah. I mean, playing Beechwood at home. You think what kind of trip is that for Beechwood? Is that about 4 or 5 hours longer?
3 to 3.5 plus.
They'll free travel 5.5 to go to Pulaski County.
Beechwood. I have to look at it again. I mean, Beechwood is pretty close to where I am right now. So to get down there, it'd probably be about 3.5 to 4. I have to look at it again, but but I think you said it right, CJ. He was a great hire. Just hearing from now, he is a real credit to all Middlesboro, U-Pike, and should make people in Paintsville happy that he's a young man who can articulate himself well, carry his program well, speak to those young men the way they should be spoken to, and really going to hopefully continue to keep that program at a top-notch level. But he's a good young man with a good, bright mind. So really good hire, I think, for them.
Oh, it was. There was no doubt about it. He, when he was at Pikeville, he was Al's right-hand man. And, Al, he done a lot to help the program. So he'll be missed at Pikeville, but Paintsville's got him a diamond in the rough. So great hire and a great everything about it. Let's study a little bit here. Let me go over the schedule for this. Let's go over this week's schedule. We mentioned a few games. Mentioned a few more. We got Hart County going to play McCreary Central. We got Corbin at Whitley. That is the first priority bowl. Now, the first night of the Pike County Bowl, we're going to have Eastridge and Phelps in the first game at 6:00, and then Covington Catholic and Belfry in the nightcap. That's
a fantastic game. Fantastic game for that nightcap at the Pike County Bowl. And it's sort of flying under the radar almost a little bit, but Belfry and Covcat is a fantastic game that if you want to have something going on Friday night and you're anywhere near that, it's worth it to drive on out there and check it out, in my opinion.
Both teams got beat pretty bad this weekend, so they'll be looking.
Covcat lost to Elder out of Cincinnati, and Elder is a legitimate powerhouse.
Yeah.
Like We're talking multiple D1 players on that team, 4 to 5 to 6, maybe more guys are going D1 off that team. So Covcath actually hung with them for quite a bit. It's 28-6 final, I believe.
Yeah.
So, do not take that as a bad loss for Covcath at all. That is a very good Covcath team.
I figured Elder was really good, but I didn't know they were that good.
Elder plays in the same league with St. X, who's a top 25 in the nation team, Moeller and LaSalle. So
Wow.
St. X won the state title last year in Ohio. LaSalle won the Division II state title, and Moeller is Moeller. So you put Elder with them, that's what you got.
Other games that here's a good one. Knox Central at Bale. Look for the football to fly up there on Dudley Mountain. Some other games. Hazard at home against Harlan County. Leslie County and Clay County. If nothing don't happen. Letcher Central's home. They'll play Davy Crockett, Tennessee. Know much about them?
I don't. They're one. I know the name and I'm vaguely familiar with them, but never really cover them. Don't know much about them. So it's kind of a mystery and a surprise game. Although I always like the name David Crockett. So it just seems like a fun name.
Johnson Central is at Lexington Catholic. Got Middlesboro hosting Williamsburg. Of course, Paintsville is hosting Beechwood. Perry Central is hosting Floyd Central. Somerset's going to play Russell County. Estill County is going to travel to South Laurel. South Laurel gets to play on their new turf field. They just got completed a couple weeks ago. Then Saturday night, the second night of the Pike County Bowl. Pike County Central and Shelby Valley at 6 o'clock, and Pikeville and Bourbon County in the nightcap at 8:30. There's one other game at day at 1:30 on Saturday. Pineville hosting Fairview. So just some of the games this week on the schedule. We're going to go over that with John when he comes on a little bit. Some of the scores from last week. I mean, we went over a few of these. We'll go a few more. Johnson Central was 60, Henry Clay 21, Pikeville 43, Paintsville 21, Corbin 35-21 over the Christian School. We're going to talk to Coach Greer here in just a few minutes. And the first game of the Cumberland Falls Pigskin Classic, it was Williamsburg 50, Oneida, Tennessee 21. Pulaski County 55, Belfry 13, was Dunbar 69, Bertha County 28. Somerset losing to Lincoln County 50-20. Estill County 29-6 over Powell. Letcher Central 50-13 over Shelby Valley. North Laurel in overtime beat Bale 30-22. Wayne County 42, Clinton County 6. Haler County beat Rockcastle County 34-28. I was at this game at Union College. Knox Central 30, Clay County 22, and Pike Central defeated Pendleton County 20-8. We had 6 games canceled. No, I'm sorry. 11 games canceled last week because of coronavirus. So a lot going on. Another busy week this week. I guess I don't know what the YMT game of the week will be. We'll have to ask John when he come on, but they got several games that maybe Bale, Knox Central. That could be a good one for YMT game of the week. Or I don't know. I don't know where they'll be. We'll have to ask John when he comes on.
And I think, like I said, Whitley Corbin to me is a wonderful game. Yep. Should be a good matchup in terms of talent-wise, possibly even. But more than anything, it's always a good matchup whenever you get those teams that are so close together. So the kids know each other. Because even when it's not a good talent matchup, a lot of times it turns into an intriguing game because, man, I know you play as hard as you can every play. That's what you feel like. But there's a little something extra you find when it's a dude you go to the gym or you've seen on the playground all your life and you're playing against him and you have something to prove, CJ. There's an extra level. When coach said, give 110%, you're like, that's physically impossible. I can only give 100%. There is an extra 110%, and it only shows up in a rivalry game. It only shows up when you're playing a buddy of yours.
One of my favorite commercials is there's a banking commercial. This woman tells them you can go 169%.
Yes.
And they don't believe her, and then she figures out the numbers, and it's like, well, I guess you can't go 169%.
Yeah, and so when you get those rivalry kind of games, I think those are fun. I'll be intrigued by the Harlan County and Hazard game as well. Yeah, like you said, and that Williamsburg Middlesboro game will be very intriguing as well. There's a couple on the schedule to keep your eye on and see how things kind of work themselves out. But an interesting first week to say the least. We'll just have to see how everything plays out for the second week. But there's some good stuff in the mountains that could come out this week and see what happens. What'll be really interesting to see is what the new Mountain Top 10 looks like coming up after we see what shakes out, because Pulaski County obviously is going to shoot up that a fair amount. And then that bottom half is really going to shake up with a lot of losses down there. And some of those teams that were just outside may creep in. So we may see several new Mountain Top 10 teams already making their way in, which doesn't usually happen.
I'm losing my mind, apparently. I should have noticed it. WYMT will be at the Pike County Bowl. I don't know why.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Well, we didn't have it last year. That's why it threw me off, because you got 2 nights of it, so they'll be on Friday night and Saturday night. So, somebody asked me a question Friday night, and I answered partially, but I couldn't answer the whole. Now, some of these schools believe coronavirus is not tame, but have these schools quit streaming their games like they did last year? Because I've noticed that there wasn't as many games being streamed Friday night, the first night.
That seems surprising to me, because I don't know why you wouldn't per se stream them. I mean, and this is something I'm glad you bring this up, because we're talking about TV games. We got asked this all the time at WYMT, and we had to actually overcome this with some high school administrators and things. They would always say, well, if a game's on TV, no one will show up. But what we found is when we got to a TV game, the crowds are bigger than their normal games, because when you say it's a TV game, people get so excited because, like, this game must be important. There's energy. So more fans would show up usually, unless it was a really bad weather game. Then some people would stay home. But other than that, usually the TV meant more crowds, more people showed up to your game. The coaches always liked it. The coaches like being on TV, because for them it was, a certain cachet, a certain excitement, a certain energy, a certain way to say, look, our team's going to have to be on TV. But the administrators thought it hurt their game. But in reality, I did this at WYMT. I worked at WVLT, for a long time. And we did high school games there every single week we had one. It never hurt the crowds. In fact, actually, the crowds are always generally better, unless there's bad weather, when we had a TV game. Because the students and the fans got more excited because it's on TV. We need to go. We need to get there and be excited about it. So I don't know if people aren't streaming this year because, because fans are actually allowed now to go. I don't know why you wouldn't stream if you were streaming last year, unless there's a certain cost associated with it. But other than that, no.
A lot of schools have their own stuff, have their own material. I mean, I don't know why you would quit streaming games. You need to continue. The people, some of them not going to come out. I mean, I noticed the other night at not Western Hill, Great Crossing, they had a bowl game. If there wasn't 2,500 people there, then I can't count. Because you had the first game, you had Franklin County, Scott County. Then the nightcap, you had Great Crossing versus Western Hills. So, and you couldn't tell me that was not many. I mean, there was that more. Because there was more people standing up around the fence than sitting in the bleachers. So,
yeah. I said I was at Simon Kenton versus Oldham County, because my girlfriend's daughter plays in the pep band, and I remember thinking, no one will be here for this game. Simon Kenton is a solid team, but not a biggest kind of team. They're coming off a 3-7 year, I think, last year, something like that. They've traditionally won their district, so they're a good team, but not a great team. We showed up, man. There were a lot of people there. I was like, holy cow, there's a lot of people in these stands here. So, I'm like, okay, so people are obviously coming back out for the games. Yeah. At least for the time being, anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like the crowds are returning, but I also feel like you don't need to eliminate your stream if someone's worried about that, because people are still going to come out. Yeah. If someone's comfortable coming to the game, they're coming to the game. If they're not going to comfortable come to the game, they're not going to sit at home and watch it. If they want to watch the game, they're going to go to the game. Yeah. That's what it's going to come down to. There are always some exceptions, but that is a much, much smaller number. So I hope everybody keeps streaming the games, because what we found a lot of times too, when we did games live, or even when teams like the high school I'm kind of associated with now up in Hamilton, Ohio, when they'd have their games on TV, the really cool thing is when they stream their games is you start to see all these other grandparents and aunts and uncles would watch the game that they couldn't see before. And it was really exciting. And what's really cool being in Hamilton, Ohio, everybody in Hamilton who's a longtime resident, whose family's been there for more than one generation, has a relative from the mountains. Every single one of them has a family from the mountains, especially Hazard, Harlan, and Pikeville, because they all moved up there after World War II to take factory jobs up in Middletown and Hamilton, that area. So everybody up there has some kind of relative up there, which is just really cool. So when we saw games streaming last year, we had people in the mountains who were like, oh my gosh, I could, watch my cousin up there or my nephew up there playing. So I hope they keep streaming games. I hope everybody keeps doing that. I think that's really a key and important thing for these young people, so the word can get out there. And honestly, it was great for recruitment for coaches.
Oh,
for
yeah.
a coach now, you may, if you're a college coach now, if the game is streamed, you can catch 3 different games in a weekend. Instead of one game you go to, you can catch 3 different games, catch more athletes. It's more opportunities for more kids to be seen. So really, it comes down to, if you have talent, you will be found. So I hope that people keep streaming games, especially, as you know, CJ, the technology just keeps getting cheaper and easier to do a good quality product. I mean, back when I was at YMT, I left in 2011, to do anything, you have special equipment. Now, honestly, you see people, if you want to do really nice, you need special equipment, but you can take your cell phone, put it on a tripod, zoom it in a little bit, and you end up with a really good quality product.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that 100 places. I've seen it millions of places. I mean, we got an answer to one of our questions from earlier. Billy Brock, good friend of mine, he said, CJ, the fastest route for Beechwood to go to Paintsville is 2 hours and 53 minutes, and the longest is 3 hours and 34 minutes. So it's a long bus ride no matter what. So Billy Brock, paying attention, helping us out, getting us some information to help Beechwood how to get there quicker. So,
I will tell you this much, CJ, and I know this from personal experience, driving back and forth to Cincinnati and back to Hazard a bunch of my time. There's something about driving into the mountains. It's 3 hours, but it's a long 3 hours. Some of them windy roads, if you don't have, I used to joke about it, on a ship you had sea legs, right? You had to get used to it, and then land legs. If you weren't used to mountain driving and regular driving, it can make you sick taking buses, and especially in buses and cars, getting just even in the mountains sometimes, because the roads are a little windier, or they get a little narrow, and you get the trees, or you get the mountains up on side you. It screws with your head. If you're not from the mountains, it screws with your head a little bit until you're used to it. So I had to get to adjust to it. So did everybody else. There's an adjustment period of driving. When you first get there and you're driving down the road right in the mountains, you're looking, you're going, there's rocks here and there's rocks here. And where did the sun go? It's 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock, but I'm in shadows. How's that? It throws you off a little bit. So I'm telling you, teams come into the mountains, it may be a 3-hour drive, but it might as well be a 4 or 5 hour drive the way it wears you out.
Basketball is even more crazier, because if you go to places like
Buckhorn,
Owsley County,
and
you're going these narrow roads that are Lee County. I mean, nothing against the. I mean, with this roads are narrow and they're hard to. I mean, you got people on the bus sick and this and that. I mean, it's the trip.
When I was there, Buckhorn had John Noble as head coach, and I used to tell Coach Noble all the time, Coach, just the drive here alone is worth a 5-point advantage to you guys getting to this gym. And he was like, his response was, I always thought it was a little more than that, but I'll take 5. So yeah, 5-point advantage.
I know, John did Breathitt now and doing very well. He actually had a great summer. Got one of his kids back from Buckhorn, the Collins kid, and he had a really impactful summer. Got noticed by some big-time colleges, and they were one of the winningest teams in the summer. John may have he's got a good team on his hand. I try to keep up with him. I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks because AMW Wrestling, I've been helping them some. I've been doing the PA for them, the public address, introduce the wrestlers. So we'll get to see John that night. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Is he still wrestling?
He wrestles every once in a while. Right now he's not wrestling.
Okay.
He'll have a period coming up here of a little bit. He might be, I don't know. I doubt he'll wrestle this year. He'll probably come back after basketball's over next year.
I always thought it was the funniest thing that John Noble, here's this high school boys basketball coach who also wrestles. I always thought that was the funniest thing. And he is, a great guy, a funny guy, always made me laugh. always had a big personality. He was perfect. He's perfect for wrestling because he's, built and he's got this great personality for it. So he was always a fun one to deal with. I'll tell you the one thing I do miss about being at WYMT is we had so many amazing coaches across the board in football, boys and girls basketball, baseball, softball. We had just a lot of fun coaches, even soccer and volleyball, as you got to know them. It was such a weird, diverse group of people that were so different depending where you went and what sports you're dealing with and who they were. That, man, I miss dealing with those coaches. They were so much fun, kept you on your toes. There were some I remember the first time I met Bill Mike Runyon, at Paintsville.
Yeah.
You walked in that gym, and it wasn't even like I was in awe. I was like, is this guy going to make me run laps? I walked in thinking, I'm like, and if he yells at me, I'm going to run laps, do I do it? I might have
Lord.
to, because some of these guys just had that presence. So, and some of the coaches, I used to, Jim Matney over at, obviously still Johnson Central, still kicking butt and taking names. He would, if they got up by enough, which was pretty much every single game, he would ask you, hey, when we get down inside the 10-yard line, what play do you want me to call? And you could tell him a play, and he would run that play for you. So you knew what to shoot because they were running that play. Or you just say, hey, coach, move for me and run it to that side so I can get the guy coming to me for the touchdown. And there's times he would run it right or left, depending which side of the field you were standing on, shooting video so he can give you a better shot. Because, number one, he was nice enough like that. And number two, they're so dominant that they could actually run to whatever side they wanted to and still score.
I'm hoping to have him on the show in a couple weeks.
Yeah, he is. He is fun.
I've been trying, but right now I understand that he's busy, and we talked on the phone a little bit this week, and I told him in a week or two I would get back with him, and we'll try to get him on. So, Coach Greer might have forgot about our time today. I did leave him a message reminding. Apparently he's not on, so
okay, pops on. If not, we'll move on. But
yeah, we'll move on. We got John Lowe from WYMT going to join us at 9:30.
CJ, can we talk about one thing though that I think sometimes flies under the radar a little bit? I've been out of TV for a few years now, but one thing that always still feels special is that opening Friday night of high school football. It never leaves you. I know I was talking to a guy who left the sports business in Cincinnati. He left a couple months ago, and he said this week was one of the hardest weeks he's had since he's left because, he wanted to get in his car and go to a game on Friday or go to a couple games on Friday night, and he couldn't. So there's a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of excitement that just never leaves you once you're in the business. And for you, it's got to be the same way. And I think for the fans, if you're a fan of a program, and not just a light fan, but, one of those really diehard fans, this is your Christmas. To me, this is almost more exciting than Christmas because I'm like, okay, cool. Christmas is awesome. I celebrate it for multiple reasons, but high school football just has something new and exciting every year that you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to be. And I love that. I love that excitement. I love that energy. And we saw it this first week, and it just grows and grows as the year goes along,
you could just tell from the highlights of everything Friday night, the people being back in the stadium.
Oh my gosh!
Brought an electric thing to the situation because I was at Middlesboro and I was tingling. My brother's coach for Hazard. Everybody knows that, and but the crowd Hazard had and the crowd Middlesboro had. It was just. I got excited. I had a smile on my face, and that's what it should be about. I know coronavirus is out there. We know we got to be healthy. I saw people wearing masks. I saw people social distancing. They're still trying to do some of the things they know to stay healthy, but the atmosphere was unbelievable. And then I told you about Great Crossing. Last night at Union College was unbelievable. Great crowd. So,
yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of energy this year. Hopefully we can avoid any, major shutdowns. We're obviously going to have some here and there. We've already seen, as you said, 11 games canceled last week. There's already a couple canceled for this week. Mm-hmm. And then there'll be more as we move through the school year. Unfortunately, it's just a matter of fact and something we're going to have to deal with as we go. But, one thing to keep in mind, CJ, and I think this is very important for fans to understand too, when these games are canceled, it's not a coach sitting there going, okay, good, I'm glad we canceled this game. Man, coaches, more than even the players, hate canceling games. So don't get mad at a coach for canceling the game because it's not his call, first of all, or even on volleyball, his or her call. Don't get mad at the players. Don't even get mad at the administrators. Don't get mad at someone making a decision for true safety of your community, not just the players. We act like the players are young, they'll be fine, but they get it and they carry it out other places too. Mm-hmm. So it's a community kind of thing. We all have to roll with it, we all have to understand, we all have to accept that. It's not something we have to like. In fact, we shouldn't like it, but we should accept it and respect it because of what it means and what it does. And I think as we move forward through this, I think the biggest thing we do is show understanding and show some kindness for people who go through situations like this. I think that's the biggest thing, and not just high school football, obviously, or high school volleyball or soccer, or whatever it is, but everything. But in realms of what we're talking about, there's going to be football games canceled. As a fan, you're going to have to deal with it. Trust me, as a fan, you are on the ladder of people upset about it canceled. You are not above the players. You are not above the coaches. You are not above the administration. So take a deep breath, relax. And, if the opponent has to cancel, maybe you'll find another game. If not, we'll play a game next week. It stinks. It's terrible, but it's what we're dealing with.
Safety first is the most important. Leslie County, I'll use an example. Leslie County had to cancel with Martin County because of COVID, and Martin County was lucky enough to get Betsy Lane and pick them up and play them that night. So that happens. I've seen,
and that was an amazing game.
You know nothing about these teams when you pick them up. So you're preparing for one, but you may have to prepare for another. And I've always said, especially in sports, go week to week because you don't know what you're going to have. I mean, by the time the week ends, you may think you're in the clear, and then bam.
Well, you look at COVID, and it's the same as you said, week to week. I mean, you could be looking at, okay, we have an easy opponent this week, a tough opponent 2 weeks down the road. And then against that easier opponent, your quarterback goes out there and blows an ACL on the second snap of the game. And all of a sudden, you don't have the same team you had the week before. And, so you're right. It is week to week. Everything changes in a moment. So you do have to be prepared for that. And that we've seen that plenty of times before with injuries, and people step up. Same thing with illnesses, same thing with COVID, same thing with when flu strikes a team. I've had that before. And, illness run through. But I think we can adjust and get ready for it. But the one nice thing, what I've always loved, CJ, about the football season is high school gives you that first real oomph. The season has started because they go first. And then college comes along and pros come along. And then we go Friday night high school football, Saturday college football, Sunday NFL football, and there's just nonstop football. And then Monday night, you have football. And Thursday night, there's NFL football. So anymore, it's only Tuesday and Wednesday. Because as my girlfriend always asks me, she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, watching a football game. She's like, there's another one? I'm like, yes. Of course I am, Now, I'm lucky because my girlfriend likes football. Mm-hmm. So she doesn't watch all of them with me, but she'll watch quite a bit with me. So I'm actually a very, very lucky man.
I'm just glad. Be glad we're going to see the colleges back to normal. Pack stands. I think a lot of tailgating, I believe, but when you
like we said, Kentucky starts in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They've got they got Louisiana Monroe at home to open, and then boom, right in University of Missouri. I mean, you talk about out of the gate. I mean, I was confused, and I looked at their schedule. They have 2 non-conference games to end the year, which is really unusual. It is incredibly unusual.
New Mexico State, is that right? No, Louisville and
New Mexico State and then Louisville, the last 2 games of the year. So they jump right into SEC playing the second game with Missouri. So we'll find out pretty quickly what the Wildcats have, what they can and can't do. And then they get Chattanooga in week 3. And then after that, it's South Carolina, Florida, LSU, Georgia. Man, what a stretch. Florida, LSU, Georgia, 3 weeks in a row. My gosh. Man, oh, man, if you come out healthy of those games, you almost are happy. So I think there's a lot of excitement there. I think there's a lot to be excited for this year. We're finally back to the beginning of football season, high school football, college football, NFL. The Bengals, if Joe Burrow can stay healthy, some people might have something to cheer for with the Bengals.
He don't need to be on the field right now. He don't need to be another preseason. I know
he might be in next week to take some snaps, but I don't think so.
I wouldn't.
But I'll guarantee this much: if he's in next week taking any snaps at all, it's going to be a 3-step drop and throw. It will not be a deep ball. It will be a 3-step drop, just so we can see it, and then boom, quick out. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, 3, go. It'll be that stuff. It will not be a 5-step drop. It will not be a go route. It'll be a 3-step and a crossing route, or a slant across the middle. So we may see that, but if he stays healthy, we could have some fun years for the Bengals this year coming up. I the Bengals.
We spoke about Kentucky and their quarterback. We haven't spoken about Joey Gatewood. He has decided to go to the University of Central Florida. So that's where he'll end up playing. And that's a good place for him, I think. So I think he can really make them a good football team.
Yeah, I think, people get mad at anybody transfers anymore. I don't take it personally by any means. I think that you go to where you can play and where you want to compete. And, if there's an opening for him there, he should go. I don't get mad at anybody who leaves a job if they're in a job they don't like. Or if you're stuck in a job and you can't get a promotion, there's a lot of people that will leave a job and go to somewhere else to a different corporate job because there's a promotion available there. Anymore, the best way to get a raise is to leave your one job and go to another job. That's how it works to a certain extent. And heck, anymore now with the NILs, you literally can leave and get a raise, literally, depending on how money flows and things and how that kind of interplays with things. So, boy, that's going to make things a little bit of the Wild West, isn't it, CJ? That NILs are really going to make things interesting.
Well, I mean, this name, image, and likeness thing is already spreading pretty good right now. A lot of people, you see websites, billboards, companies want them. I mean, I didn't know it was going to be this impacted early, but I mean, it's hitting full throttle already.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was a little surprised it went this big this early, but I shouldn't be. We shouldn't be because it's money, and money speaks quickly, CJ. And you look at those things, but Alabama's quarterback's got $1 million already.
Well, everybody does know about the potential super conference being formed between the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC. Because where Texas and Oklahoma join the Southeastern Conference, those three conferences are wanting to join each other for football and basketball. And if that was to happen, that's going to be crazy. Because I don't know how that'll work. I don't know how that worked out.
I don't know what it'll look like, honestly. Like, it confuses me a little bit what it'll look like. If they expand the playoffs, it makes sense because then you can have 3 teams come out of the conference and make the playoffs.
Yep.
If they do expand, which they will expand them over time because money, CJ, money talks. So they'll expand a little bit more because they'll want more playoff games. It's proven. The playoff games make money. Even though almost all the semifinal games, as long as they've had the 4 teams in the playoffs, they've almost all been blowouts in the semifinals. They haven't been great games, but people watch them, and there's money. So they're going to do more because they're going to want to make more money. And honestly, I'm not against going to 8 because I'd love to see one of the small schools slip in. The University of Cincinnati last year was one of the top teams, but they didn't get a chance to slide in. I'd like to see it. And here's the thing. Can they compete? Can UC last year compete with Alabama? No. Okay. But I'd be curious to see it when it's a really good team. Wouldn't you? You tune in because there's a curiosity factor to it because you don't know. Boise State back when they were, blowing people up and they were like, well, are they good enough? Well, if they could have gotten into a playoff, I mean, they beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl that one year. So obviously they were good enough. You could have chaos and you don't know what's going to happen. So I think people would tune in for that. And here's what's really interesting. When you get the NIL, CJ, when you start thinking about this, right? So the NIL should work in the favor of the bigger schools because they have more boosters who can give more money to kids. Technically, you're not supposed to give money to a kid to come to a school. But a kid who's going to a certain school knows that there's bigger boosters with deeper pockets, right? So they're going to go to certain schools because there's going to be money there. Let's just say it's going to happen, okay? So, but let's say a school out of the MAC. Let's say there's really deep pockets, Miami, my school, okay? I'm a Miami Redhawk graduate, works for the football team. They've got some deep pockets with their alum. Maybe some alum decides, you know what? I've got a bunch of money. I'm going to give a bunch of sponsorship dollars to a bunch of players. All of a sudden, Miami starts getting a lot of talent in. Now, out of nowhere, Miami could be a threat to be a really good team out of nowhere. So I think that there's some really interesting ways that the NIL could play itself out. Ultimately, it's going to help the top teams as if they need more help. But I really, really think what you're going to see with the NIL is there's an opportunity for one of the smaller teams, if they can find enough boosters with a lot of money, one of the smaller teams could buy their way in with the big boys. It could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a lot of money. Like a lot of money. I'm just saying, in theory, it could happen with the NIL. You could see some random Ball State or somebody out of Conference USA, University of Cincinnati. They're a Conference USA team that was a number 8 ranked team in the nation last year. They've got deep pockets. Who says their boosters can't give a bunch of guys to come in who might have gone to Ohio State or been a second-level Ohio State player come to UC now and develop? It's interesting things could happen with some money. So I really want to see what happens with that. The NIL is going to make things a little bit wild, and I'm here for it because I sometimes like chaos. It's fun. So, yeah.
Oh, we love chaos. Chaos is something that we like. We like it a lot. Now, for the first time ever on the CJ Harris Show, we welcome WYMT Sports Director and Reporter, Mr. John Lowe. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, CJ. Thanks for having me. Excited to be on.
Yep. Your counterpart, Camille, talked highly of you and Courtney. I saw Courtney last night at the Clay Cuddy game. She was filming. But what was your impressions of week one?
Honestly, I was pretty impressed by Pulaski County. I did not think that would be that one-sided of a route. I mean, I know Belfry kind of traditionally starts off a little slow, but I didn't think it would be like that out there in Somerset. I don't know how much of the Paintsville game you guys heard of. At the end there was an injury, and we're hearing he's probably going to be okay. I don't remember who it was, but it was nice to see the two teams there come together there at the end and pray together. That was very sweet to see. And then it was actually really cool to see, and down up and down the Big Sandy Valley, some of those head coaches in their debuts getting some big wins. Jared Jarrell over at Betsy Lane won on a late 2-point conversion in a game that they had scheduled that day. And then Donnie Burdine out at East Ridge picking up a big win over Floyd Central. So I was really impressed with week one, and also Johnson Central putting a whooping on Henry Clay out there in Lexington. So it was a fun first week for me and Courtney, for sure.
Jeff mentioned earlier, your top 10 this week ain't gonna look. It's gonna look scrambled. It's gonna look like scrambled eggs because there's nobody. There are probably gonna be 3 or 4 teams in, 3 or 4 teams out. Some teams are gonna move down. I mean, it's gonna be chaos this week when you go to do your top 10.
I kind of, I've been kind of playing with my ballot because, that's how we do it at YMT. We kind of sit together and kind of ballot it out. For me, the top 4 are basically the same. Johnson Central, Williamsburg, Corbin, Pikeville, they all took care of business. Paintsville, obviously, they're probably going to have to come out, unfortunately. It doesn't get any easier for them because they got Beechwood next week. I mean, they don't get a break. I mean, I think Hoskins, Coach Hoskins, I think he'll turn it around. But, man, he doesn't get any breaks early on. But I think I was impressed also with Letcher Central. I have Letcher Central in the top 10. I was impressed with North Laurel, beating Bell County in overtime. I have them in the top 10. And I think Knox Central is gonna be in the top 10. I think I didn't get to see too much of the game itself other than what Courtney shot, but I think Travis McDaniel's kind of keeping the ball rolling that Fred Hoskins started there, and I don't know if they're going to be in the top 10. I think I have them at number 10. So it just kind of depends on what Courtney and Camille and everyone else thinks. But you're going to say, and Belfry is the one I don't really know what to do with because they lost, but it's Belfry. So
and Pulaski is that good, so it's a tough.
And Pulaski, yeah. So I don't think you could take them out. I do think they stay in, but they need to go down because probably 8, 9, and then they're going to build back up. They got Bourbon County this week in the Pike County Bowl, so Coach Jones is doing a great job at Bourbon County, but that's going to be a tough game because they'll play. They play Covington Catholic. I'm sorry. Pike will play Bourbon County. But, they have a chance to get back in there after if they can get them a good win there.
Yeah, I think I'll be interested to see how that game plays out. I don't think I'll be at that Belfry game just because it's it's Pike County Bowl, it's game of the week, so I'll be elsewhere. But I'll be interested to see how that goes. I have Belfry at 8 right now. Personally, I don't know where they're going to end up just based off of, like I said, how Courtney and Camille vote, but it's Philip Haywood. You can't go against Philip Haywood. So,
John, as a as someone who worked at WYMT in the sports department for 5 years and 4 months, and was sports director for 4 years, let me be the first one to officially say your Mountain Top 10 is garbage and you should be ashamed of yourself. No, that's I'll be the first one. I'm just telling you, I heard it a lot throughout my time. You hear it all the time. And I bet you're at the grocery store and people tell you, oh, well, your show was great, but your Mountain Top 10 is terrible. And you're like, what did I do wrong? Like, it's fine. Someone's going to lose. We had 2 teams play each other who were both top 10. Someone has to lose. That's how it works. So, no, it's great. John, let me, I think it's the people want to know. And I mean, obviously the fraternity, and we'll talk about that in a moment. You're going to find out about the fraternity of WYMT sports people. It is like nothing we've ever experienced. But tell us your background. Who are you? Where did you come from? And why are you here? I think those are 3 key questions.
Wow. Remember, Jeff Archer don't hold no punches back. He's a go-getter type of guy.
I've been through it, so I know what questions to ask.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from West Virginia. I was born and raised in Morgantown and went to WVU, so I know I'm a Mountaineer first. But right out of college, I had trouble getting a sports job, so I ended up getting a job at WSAZ in Huntington as a news reporter. That was June of 2019. And then the pandemic happened, so it was really fun to be kind of a freshman reporter in the age of COVID. It kind of made a lot of us here grow up a lot, and from that, I figured if I wasn't going to fall in love with news in 2020, it was probably never going to happen. So I started looking around for a sports job, and then Willie Hope took the opportunity to go back to school, and that job came up, and I applied for it, and I got the job, and I'm really excited because I kind of knew about the Big Sandy teams because I was at Shelby Valley's game at West Carter in the playoffs. I went to the Paintsville game, the championship game in Lexington. I covered that for WSAZ, and I was at Johnson Central's loss to Franklin County, so I kind of knew that side of the mountains. I wasn't really familiar with, say, Dudley Hilton or Chris Larkey or John Hines, but in learning that, I've kind of really enjoyed it. I met Brian Milam a few times. He's, it's really hard. I mean, people here in Hazard and around Hazard still ask Brian Milam for stuff. So it's been fun to get to know him and Kevin Farmer. I met him a couple times. So the fraternity is something I'm slowly getting used to being familiar with, so it's been really fun the last 6 or 7 weeks that I've been here.
Yeah, it's one of those things of when I first got there, they told me Keith Farmer and John Lewis, both still working in sports, obviously. Mm-hmm. They both told me it's not like anything. They said no matter where you go after this, nothing will be like this for you, and that'll be the same for you. I mean, you can move on and move up and move on to major things and big network stuff. And it will never be the same for you as it is here because of just that fraternity, because it's so small and it is so special. And I know it's hard for me to tell you that now, 6 weeks in, 7 weeks in, but you'll figure it out very quickly, and I jokingly ask you, all this background stuff because the reason is I went through that because people are going to ask you at the grocery store. They want to know that. They want to know these things. They want to know about you. They want to know, everything about you when you're in the mountains. It's I don't want to call it a nosy place because I love CJ. CJ, you get it. People have questions. They want to know what's going on.
Yeah. Answers. And if you ain't got the answers, they're going to demand the answers. They want to know. They got to know the answer.
They are. If you get in with the people here, they are the best people in the world to know, and they will treat you the best, better than anywhere you ever be. That's the God's honest truth. So just get in with them. And then the most important thing I can tell you right now is no matter what, always put the kids and coaches before yourself, and everything will work itself out after that. Just be an advocate for the players and the coaches and people, and be genuine in your love for them and genuine in your concern for them. And the people will read that. They will see it on TV, and they will fall for you, and that will make your life so much easier and so much better. And then that's it. So you have to know. Brandon Hensley, if you don't know him yet, you'll get to know him very quickly. I work together, and he's from Harlan. He used to say, and he told me this like the first week I was there, he said, what makes it easiest for me is I feel like I'm a mayor, like I'm an elected official, and I work for the people. You don't work for the TV station. You work for the people of the mountains. And that's the mentality I took when I first got there. And I carried that for 5+ years. And that really is what got me through. And I think that's able to connect with a lot of people.
Brandon done the Southboro Harlan County game the other night. I was listening to a little bit of it. So he still works at the University of the Cumberland, and he does everything for them.
Yeah, so he's down there. You can reach out to him. He'll take care of you. You know, he's the truest mountain sports fan through and through there is. But welcome to the fraternity, man. It's a crazy place to be. It's a great place to be. Enjoy it, but don't let it eat you up a little bit too. It's fun. I remember, I can tell you, there were times, I mean, there were people, they invited me to like their weddings. Players I cover invited me to their weddings, things like this. But I also had someone come up to me right after Christmas and tell me that I ruined their family's Christmas because their kid was not all mountain. He was honorable mention all mountain, not first, second, or third team all mountain. And I ruined their Christmas.
Oh, man.
And I'm like,
I will say, sorry, I'm going to cut you off there, Joe. I will say to kind of like piggyback on what you're saying, I moved here in July, at the beginning of July. You know, my parents helped me move and everything. And I live down in Jeff. Just down Route 15. And, you know, just walking into the Jeff Mart, like people being genuinely interested in like where I came from and what I do. And they're like, oh yeah, you're the guy that's on in the mornings right now. Like, you know, things like that. And, you know, I tell you, there hasn't been a place really like it. And when it comes to reporting their stories, when I was working at WSAZ as a news reporter, a lot of what I covered was in Southern Ohio, like Pomeroy or Gallipolis, Ohio. And there's something about small towns and communities like this. And, you know, it's more than just, you know, there's something that was nice about that for me because it was like they were watching TV and like, oh yeah, that's our guy, you know, and that's something that I really look forward to doing here in the mountains and, you know, even seeing if I can get some of the other teams on. I know we get Paintsville on. We got to get Paintsville, Pikeville, and Belfry, but if I can get East Ridge on, if I can get Betsy Lane. You know, Betsy Lane had a good win. I think I mentioned it earlier with that 2-point conversion. You know, I mean, if I can mention more of those stories and talk about that, I mean, that's really what I want to do over the next, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years or however long I'm here. Because I've really enjoyed it just in the past 6 weeks.
Yeah, if you're like in Cincinnati, you're a sports reporter, right? If you're in Lexington, you're a sports reporter. When you're in the mountains, you are their reporter. That's it. Their reporter. There's nobody else. You're the one, you know, and they take such a personal interest in you. It is unbelievable. I mean, I can tell you, no joke. I won't say who, but I will say that I got a call from a Paintsville parent. This is many years. It was like 2010, somewhere like that. And so this person called because they were mad that Paintsville basketball hadn't been on enough yet. By the way, they were on 3 times in their first 6 games by that point, been on more than anybody else because I actually had a spreadsheet who told me who was on. And so she called and she was and she was like, you know, we haven't been on. And I knew this from before because I'd run into her in the games, you know. And she says, and then literally she says, oh, my husband just walked in. I'm not allowed to call you guys. I have to hang up. And she hung up the phone because her husband, I can't get on the phone to talk with us anymore. And hiding it from her husband. It wasn't like an affair. She was wanting more basketball coverage. But she acted more like an affair than with basketball coverage. So that's what you're going to kind of deal with. It's cool. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. It is a little bit scary at times, but, man, it's great. Just enjoy the wave, ride with it. And like I said, genuinely, if you're a genuine person, you genuinely care about what happens to the players, to the coaches, who they are as people, not just as players, man, you're going to do great. That's it. It's all the advice I need to give you. That's the God's honest truth. And, you know, I saw some of your stuff on Friday. I went back and watched it. And, yeah, I mean, I've been gone 10 years. I'm still keeping up with games. I told CJ I was at Simon Kenton versus Oldham County because my girlfriend's daughter plays in the pep band. So we were there for that game. And I'm no joke. I'm on my phone like this, you know, watching this game and checking Twitter for 3 different scores from Ohio teams. I'm checking all the mountain teams. I'm checking the teams I covered in Knoxville and the teams I was checking that I covered in Virginia for a year. My girlfriend's like, are you going to put the phone in? I'm like, no, because I've got 5 states right now going live on my phone trying to keep up with everything. So, you know, I'm keeping my eye on the mountains because there's something ingrained in you. It'll stick with you forever. You know, I'm telling you, 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, you know, heck, Dudley Hilton will probably still be coaching 30 years down the road. I don't know how, but he will be. and you'll be checking to see if Dudley Hilton and the Bell County Bobcats win a game. So it'll stick with you.
I'm glad. I've really, just in the first week, I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see it every week. And just, I'm sure I haven't really learned who's rivals with who. North and South Laurel, I kind of got that down.
Yeah.
But like Pikeville, Belfry, and stuff like that. But I'm really looking forward for it to be kind of to really, because there's just good stories that just come out of these games. That's more than just the games, more than just the players. I remember, I think I found it on YouTube. There was one game. I think it was Shelby Valley. And there was a big banner that said "Boycott John Lewis, WYMT." I don't know if that had to do with Mountaintop 10 or what, but just stuff like that.
I know this story, and I can't remember. But I think it was Mountaintop 10. I think it was. Ask John about John. John is amazing. If you haven't reached out to John yet, John is a person. Call John, email John, shoot him a message on Twitter. He's very, very active on Twitter, probably too much so. Reach out to him. John's amazing. His mom, by the way, makes the very, very best chicken and dumplings in the world. And as a connoisseur of chicken and dumplings,
I'm up for that. I need that. I need this. Yes. Love chicken and dumplings.
And John is from Leslie County.
Yes, he is. So I need to make sure we find out where the dumplings are at in Leslie County. I need to find those.
John will fill you in all the dirt. He'll tell you everything. That's what I like about John. John will tell you everything, all the nitty gritty, everything. He'll tell you the backstories. The cool thing is if you start talking to people, they've all got stories. A lot of them we can't tell you even on this show, But, you start talking to John's got him, Keith's got him, Brian Milam's got him, Brandon Hensley's got him, Derek Forrest has him, Jay Crawford has him. All these people have these stories.
Carly Bell. Carly Bell's got a ton of them.
She's got a bunch of them,
Jamie McCracken. He's got a lot.
Keith Casewell. Everybody's got these amazing stories from this 36-year history now of sports overtime. 35 years for sports overtime, whatever year it's on now. It's a beast, man. That show is a beast. It is like nothing else in the entire country. And it's like, I feel like every time someone new comes in, I want like a group of us to come down and like cloaks and knight you, because like you are now part of this fraternity or some kind of hazing, because it is. It's this weird fraternity that you're a part of, and that's not because of station. That really has nothing to do with the station. Don't tell New Middleton I said that. There's nothing to do with the station. It has everything to do with people like CJ, with people like these coaches and players that we've dealt with, the same ones that I dealt with, the same ones you're dealing with, and these people that live down there. God bless them. There are people that I love to death. I come back and I visit from time to time. I'm going to come down and visit you if I can. I didn't make it down during Willie's time, and I'm very disappointed I didn't because I loved what he did. I watched him on Twitter and saw what he did. I'm excited for what you guys are going to do, and I'm excited for what the people in mountains are going to experience from you. And I'm glad you're a former news person. That training in the news, even though it was a short term, is going to help you so much. I didn't have any of that. You talk about trying to find a sports job. I tried for 5 years and didn't get a sports job. WYMT turned me down 3 times for 4 jobs.
Really?
I turned down 3 times. And one time there were 2 openings, and I couldn't get either one. Swear to you. And the only reason I got it, and Neil will not say this, he might not at this point, the reason I got it is because there's an anchor in the mornings who did amazing ratings, who was unbelievable. Oh my gosh, Jim Freeman was his name, okay? Morning anchor, unbelievable ratings. By the way, if Mr. Rogers was like a real person in real life, which obviously was, but if the next closest thing is Jim Freeman. So Jim, I had interned for Jim up in Cincinnati. Well, Jim was getting a little frisky to leave Hazard and go back to Knoxville. And so I think they hired me to make Jim happy. So he was like, hey, look, here's somebody. So I think I only got hired for that. And within a year, I was sports director. And then I loved it. And I stayed for 5 years. So it's really kind of an amazing thing. It's an amazing fraternity. The people are unbelievable. If you don't like soup, beans, and cornbread yet, you'll learn to love it because it'll be at every tailgate you go to. I can tell you, UVA-wise used to have the best college football tailgates and the prettiest view when the leaves start to change for about 2 to 3 weeks. I can tell you all these different stories. Belfry's got some great tailgates. I can tell you all, man. That's all there. Be fun, be yourself. I still talk to people from Belfry, and they still do the pirate yar back at me that I used to do whenever I did Belfry Pirates highlights. Belfry.
I love it. I love that. That's my favorite thing.
So I still have to do the Belfry yar for people, and I've been gone 10 years. So it's beautiful. What has you been? You said you're enjoying it. what has been your take on it now that you did your first one? What was your first sports overtime like for you?
Well, it was kind of different than I think it will be because the game they had me doing was Perry Central, so I didn't have the experience of having to go to like Salyersville or something and having to come back. But it's very fast paced. Like from about 10 o'clock when everyone comes in, it's like this. You never have a chance to really catch your breath, and you're going out with like we were having some trouble with Pikeville Paintsville because that game went a little late, and we were having some trouble with some other games we were trying to get because I think Corbin started at like 9 and things like that. So I was coming out into the studio with the laptop, ready to like slug stuff up or whatever, and Camille was kind of going back and forth between the desk and the weather center because we had EMPS up there. And we were trying to figure out, okay, what do we need to kill? What do we need to do? Do we need ad lib here? And I never had any of that at WSAZ because it was, it was a news package or something like that. So, but I've never had more fun on camera at all. Just talking about, the highlights. And I actually tried something that Brian Milan told me about. There was a old Keith Casebolt line that he would tell me about. And he was saying, if he ever needed to ad lib, he would just go like, well, Brian, you can't teach that, or something like that. So, I think I tried that a couple of times, but it was really fun. And then yesterday, we had a sports overtime just because I didn't think we were going to have one, and then I guess they sold it to advertisers already, so we kind of had to have a condensed one. It worked out because Knox Central played yesterday, and that was the first time we did it. It was me and Courtney. And we did it without Camille, and I was like, "Oh man, like Camille knows everything right now." And but it worked out. It was a lot of fun, and we were able to put in some more featurey things. We ran a story on Travion Longmire and Grant Bingham, and what they're going to do for UK, and they joined another line of mountain players going to UK, and I've really enjoyed kind of figuring out all the ins and outs of the show, and. I'm telling you, like I've never had more fun doing a broadcast. It was really enjoyable, and especially if it's an exciting game that I'm talking about. Like Woodley County, Perry County ended up going down, or Perry Central, that ended up going down to the wire. So just stuff like that. It's really cool, especially because it's not like, it's these communities are wrapped up in the school, and it's just a lot more fun when it's like Huntington, West Virginia. There's like 3 schools, so I mean it's not as tight to a community, and I really enjoy that here. It's really fun to talk about.
Yeah, and you got the place like Jenkins, and you get out there a little bit, farther out there, Phelps. When you show up to Phelps, those people love you, because they're so thankful you come out there, and it's such a great place to go. I love it, and when people say, "How do you describe sports overtime?" and I was like, you ever seen that meme with the dog sipping the coffee and everything's on fire and he says, "It's fine." That is sports overtime, because what people see is you with the coffee. Like, let me tell you about this. When in reality, over here, the whole entire studio is on fire all the time. It's nothing but fire. You're like waving to people, off screen. You're like kicking them, and your legs are waving, and you're like, Lord, get out of here, and you're like. And highlights are up, and you're literally like waving like this while you're reading a prompter and like telling the people to get over here, and nobody sees it on air. So like that's what's happening behind the scenes. I honestly, at some point, you should just set a camera up in the corner and do a split screen box of the actual broadcast and what's going on behind the scenes, and people are like, "Oh Lord, help me," So that's what it's like. It's kind of like riding a bicycle downhill with your hair on fire and there's no brakes. It is. It's glorious and it's beautiful. And it's the best training for anything you do for the rest of your life. Nothing you will do for the rest of your life that will cause you as much stress as this. Yeah. So now, what I do, people are like, "Jeff, how are you always calm in like the worst situations now?" And I'm like, nothing has ever been as disastrous or as stressful in my life as doing a live sports overtime. God's honest truth. It is great training for the rest of your life. So
everything you just described with the stress and the yelling, that was Reed Shepard getting the offer. That was exactly how that went down. It was just kind of like, it's happening. Like it's,
Yeah. Like Brandon and I used to say, Brandon Hensley used to say when sports overtime was over, that it was almost like it wasn't even a feeling of joy when you were done. It was a feeling of the deepest satisfaction and the deepest breath of relief. It was like you're almost drowning for an hour, but it was an exciting drown. It's like you can't even explain it. I wish everyone could experience it. It's like being on a roller coaster, but only like the peaks and valleys for an hour straight and getting off. It's like adrenaline. If you took a CT scan of your brain during that, man, the whole entire thing would just be red and just exploding. It's beautiful. It's amazing. And I think we've talked about before and other things. I think people are getting more savvy about how things are done. They're starting to understand that. But if you can make it all look smooth and calm, God bless you. I'll never forget. You can ask Brian about this. So Brian Milam and I were doing this show. It was a preview show for basketball or football or something. We're coming back out of the last break, live TV, and all we got to do is basically say the goodbye. And we're there, and I swear to you, there's a wasp comes out of nowhere in the last 30 seconds of the commercial break. And I'm not kidding, that wasp was like the size of my phone. Like this thing was like this big. And I'm like, if I get stung, I have to go, the hospital's bad, right? And it's buzzing around. And Brian's like, what do we do? And I'm like, just play through it. And Brian is just play through, right? If it doesn't land us, it's buzzing like in front of us, right? So here they come down. It's a true story. 5, 4, 3, and Brian, who's Moorhead's leader all time in hits, so he's good. Brian takes rolled up paper on number 3, 2, leaps out of his chair and smacks it, and throws it right in front of me. 1, I'm like, all right, how about do this for us here? And I'm like, I'm trying to do it. Here's the thing, it wasn't fully dead yet. It was still alive, and it was kind of upside down, and its legs are kind of kicking, and it's kind of trying to crawl along, and it's moving towards him. I'm like, oh, Lord, we need to wrap this up. And Brian just smiled, like, yep, because he got it. It was an amazing shot. Like, this is unbelievable. And this is live TV. Nobody knows it. Nobody's, and I swear to you, so I've got my papers over here, and I start doing this off camera. I'm like sliding it along the desk, pushing it off the desk so it doesn't come back and sting me. All while we're trying to wrap up this preview show. And no one knew. I swear to you, I was like, 5, 4, 3, 2, wham! And welcome back. It was unbelievable, man. This is the stuff that happens that people don't know about that, is just, it's to this day, we still, this is stuff that you laugh about. It's just, I couldn't believe Brian did it. I was like, I'm glad he did it. Actually, it worked out great. But then the thing was still alive. I'm like, oh, this is bad. So this is kind of what happens, man. It's fun. It's great. It's going to be a beautiful thing for you. The people will love it. The people will love you. He said, as long as you genuinely want the best for their student athletes and their coaches. And that's it. And that's the same thing. And I think that's why CJ shows he's successful. Because no one, I think people are looking for CJ just to care legitimately and genuinely about these coaches and athletes. And CJ cares genuinely, and that. That's what CJ is doing with this show. CJ ain't getting rich off this show. If you're making any money on this show, you let me know. And that's what I thought.
Oh, my giddy. 0.
Yeah. So, he's doing it because he loves him, because he loves the people. And that's why, people will give you a lot of leeway if you legitimately do that. And I think you look like a person who will. And I pray that you will. And we're pulling for you, man. We all are. Every new one who comes in, we're pulling for you. And I can tell you right now, if you need anything, all you got to do is shoot me a message, man. I'll take care of you. Shoot John Lewis a message. Shoot Brian. Shoot Keith. Shoot Brandon a message. Any one of those people a message. Shoot Willie a message, man. We'll take care of you. You need to find footage on something. We can probably tell you which tape it's on. We'll bring it up. I can tell you in my head what shots I shot from back in 2006. I know what is good video of certain people. I can tell you where to find it and about what game. So I can still see it up here, man. It's crazy. So
yeah, I'm really. I feel so at home here. I didn't know if I would, and I really do. And it's really a unique place. I've never been, and plus it's just beautiful. Go to Whitesburg, go to parts of Harlan County, Northern Virginia. It's just a beautiful place to be. So I'm really, really glad to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. We get to know people like Brandon Robinson and I are still really good friends and things, and Steve and Steve Hensley and all that. And Brandon Robinson and I were roommates. We had like 4 of us living in one house together. It's almost a fraternity / sorority between the men and women that work overall in the whole entire building, but especially in sports, man. CJ, I stole your interview, man. I'm sorry. I'm taking all your time over here. I'm just going on your interview.
well, we got 5 minutes left. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left to show. I just want to ask one more question to John because I think he's going to be back with me next week too.
Absolutely. I'll be back whenever you want, CJ.
Well, I think Camille said you'll be back with me again next week, so that you'll be back the week after. Just one final thing before I let you go. Give me some of the bigger games for week 2.
Give me 1 second. I know Beechwood is going to Paintsville. I mean, that's a huge game too. Defending state champions right there. Corbin plays Whitley County in the first Priority Bowl. So that'll be, of course, one of the games that we try to get out there. I mean, and this is all assuming COVID doesn't do what it does. But at the same time with the COVID, I mean, you get those quick scheduled games, and sometimes they can be great. Of course, we got the Pike County Bowl, East Ridge and Phelps on Friday, and then Covcath and Belfast, and then Bourbon County and Pikeville, and Pike Central and Shelby Valley on Saturday. We're gonna Williamsburg goes to Middlesboro, and then I don't really want to name too many because I don't know how many we're gonna get on air.
Johnson Central's got a monster matchup at Lexington Catholic.
Oh yeah, that's our second trip up there, I think. Yeah, because they played Henry Clay last week. Pulaski County to go out to Wayne, and Jenkins plays their first game in 2 years. They go out to Bath County, and that actually September 3rd is their first home game in 2 years. They'll play, I believe it's Harlan. I'd have to check back on that, but and then Harlan County plays at Hazard too.
Yep.
So
well, John, I know one thing. You have got a lesson in how WYMTB's ran. Mr. Archer has just given you the tools to be successful at WYMTB.
It's not complex. You literally can kind of almost have to like pound your way through it. It is like work that you pound your way through more than think through, which is different than some other places. But God bless it, you'll get really creative and you'll learn some fun stuff. And like I said, we learned some amazing stuff. Like you talk about, you had to quickly put on a show. Brandon Henson and I did the very first ever Sports Overtime Saturday night when it was a full 30-minute show. And it was just the two of us because there was our third person on left. They hadn't replaced him yet. I remember Neil Middleton walks in and he goes, "Guys, by the way, in a week and a half, we're going to have our first ever Sports Overtime Saturday night. You have to put that together too, a full 30-minute show." And I turned to Brandon and I said, "Brandon, what are we going to do?" And Brandon just goes, typing, just kind of looks at the show and goes, "I don't care. You're the one doing it now." And just went back and forth. Wow, there's a bus and I'm under it. Okay. And it turned out to be the Sports Overtime Saturday night was such a fun show because you got to do UK and SEC highlights and all the local colleges like Union and Cumberland's and Pikeville, and then recap the high school stuff from the night before. And you could be a little more loose and a little more fun. So, I get you, man. When you do that quick change, when you talked about having to put a show on Saturday night, I'm like, brother, I feel you. I've been there and I know that. So
I will say this. I did enjoy doing the 2-minute drill. That's a fun thing to do, the 2-minute drill, going through all the games and rapid fire. I really enjoyed that.
Brandon Henson and I created the 2-minute drill because we had to fill that show on Saturday night. We had no content. So we're like, what are you going to do? And Brandon, I don't know. We're like, and one of us was kind of like, what if we do recap the games? And I'm like, well, they do that 2 or 3 minute drill on ESPN or something. We'll just do a 2-minute drill. And then it got sponsored by Lee's Famous Chicken or something. And then that'll be dang. That 2-minute drill still exists, 15, 16 years later, whatever it is, which is just 17, 14 years or whatever. Mind blowing that whatever we created out of desperation still exists. And I'm glad it does because it's a great recap. I love it.
Yeah, I love it. And actually, I want to do some more stuff, especially, Sunday or Monday, kind of recapping the whole weekend. And the biggest thing, especially now, and this is something that COVID really helped, is that there's a lot more of these broadcasts that are on YouTube or Facebook Live or something like that. And if we can't get to a game, I want to try to get that on. I mean, obviously clearing copyright and stuff, but I want to try to get that on maybe later and be like, hey, just because we couldn't get to the game doesn't mean we can't, show your school. So schools like Prestonsburg and Lawrence County and Estill and Powell and teams we might have trouble getting to, I want to see if we can get them on as much as I can.
Yeah, and you got an advantage we didn't have back then, but that also means people expect a little bit more too. So I've learned that. The guys who were before us used to say, well, you have more technology than us. I'm like, yeah, but I also have to tweet, post on Facebook, and put up videos while I'm literally out in the field. You guys just had to put on a show for 4 or 3 minutes every night. You know, different ball game, more technology, but more is expected too. So God bless you. Good luck. If you need anything, reach out to me. I'll find you. We'll find each other. Reach out to anybody else. We'll all take care of you.
Sure thing. Appreciate it, Jeff.
John, it's been an honor. We'll again, like I said, you'll be back with me next week, same time, and we'll do it again.
Sure thing, CJ. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Always glad to have you. John Lowe, sports director at WYMT. He got the Jeff Archer test, and I think he passed it pretty good.
Yes,
Let me go ahead and give us some final notes, and I'm going to let Jeff give his final comments, and we'll get out of here. I want to thank everybody that watched, made calls, and left comments tonight. I want to thank my guests, Betty Von Caudill, Coach Trevor Hoskins. Coach Greer must have got busy. I will get with him. Hopefully, we may have him next week. Also, John Lowe for joining us. I especially want to thank Mr. Jeff Archer for being here. I'll let him give his final comments in just a moment. Also, I need everybody, if you'll go over to my YouTube channel, go over and push the subscribe button. Help me get 1,000 subscribers, because if I can do that, I can do some live stuff going over there, more live stuff. And even maybe if it works itself out, I can get some merchandise over there and maybe sell some shirts and make some money. So please help me if you can. I'll be back with you Wednesday night with the CJ High School football report at 7:45. I'll have week 2 of picks and rankings. So we'll be on Facebook and YouTube next week. And then I'll be back with you next Sunday night at 8 o'clock with another edition of the CJ Harris Show. I already know my co-host for next week. It's going to be Mr. Tommy Poole. Tommy's going to be with me. So that's going to be fun. Also, I've not worked on my guest list, but hopefully we're going to have some pretty good guests next week. But Jeff, go ahead and give your final comments, and we'll get us out of here.
Yeah, CJ, hey, I always thank you for having me on. I'm always happy to come back and be on. I left the mountain 10 years ago, but I never fully left it behind. It's still with me, and it always will be to the day I die. And all I can say is as we go through COVID times and really even after this and after anything goes on in a country, in a world where you can be anything, the best thing you can be is to be kind and be nice. That's it. Other than that, I don't got much to say, CJ.
Well, Jeff, I want you back anytime. If I get in the bind, might need you, I'll give you a holler.
Co-host me or just bring me back on just to be a crazy fool. I'm happy to do it for you.
Do not leave me after we get off the air. I won't say something to you after we get off the broadcast. I want to thank everybody again. As I always do with my famous saying when I end the show, this Joe Nuxall says, CJ Howard running third and heading for home. Good night, everybody, and God bless.